A man walks into a library, approaches the librarian and says, "I'll have a cheeseburger and fries, please." The librarian says, "Sir, you're in a library, right?" "Sorry," he whispers, "I'll have a cheeseburger and fries, please." A guy asks a girl to go to a dance. She agrees, and he decides to rent a suit. The rental has a long line, so he waits and waits, and finally he gets his suit. He decides to buy flowers, so he goes to the flower shop. The flower shop has a long line, so he waits and waits until he finally buys flowers. He picks up the girl and they go to the dance. There's a long line into the dance, so they wait and wait. Finally, they get into the dance, and the guy offers to get the girl a drink. She asks for punch, so he goes to the drink table, and there is no punchline. A prince was put under a spell so that he could speak only one word each year. If he didn't speak for 2 years, the following year he could speak 2 words and so on. One day, he fell in love with a beautiful lady. He refrained from speaking for 2 whole years so he could call her my darling. But then he wanted to tell her he loved her, so he waited 3 more years. At the end of these 5 years, he wanted to ask her to marry him, so he waited another 4 years. Finally, as the 9th year of silence ended, he led the lady to the most romantic place in the kingdom and said, "My darling, I love you. Will you marry me?" And the lady said, "Pardon?" John visited his 90-year-old grandpa who lived way out in the country. On the first morning of the visit, John's grandpa prepared a breakfast of bacon and eggs. John noticed a film-like substance on his plate and asked, "Are these plates clean?" His grandpa replied, "They're as clean as cold water can get them. Just go ahead and finish your meal." For lunch, Grandpa made hamburgers. Again, John was concerned about the plates, as his appeared to have specks of dried egg on it. "Are you sure these plates are clean?" he asked. Without looking up, Grandpa said, "I told you before, those dishes are as clean as cold water can get them." Later, as John was leaving, his grandpa's dog started to growl and wouldn't let him pass. John said, "Grandpa, your dog won't let me get by." Grandpa yelled to the dog, "Cold water, go lie down." One day, Max went to see Carl. Carl had a big swollen nose. "Whoa, what happened, Carl?" Max asked. "I sniffed a brose," Carl replied. "What?" Max said. "There's no B in rose." Carl replied, "There was in this one." 3 engineers and 3 accountants are traveling by train to a conference. At the station, the 3 accountants each buy tickets and watch as the 3 engineers buy only a single ticket. "How are 3 people going to travel on only 1 ticket?" asks an accountant. "Watch and you'll see," answers an engineer. All of them board the train. The accountants take their respective seats, but all 3 engineers cram into a restroom and close the door behind them. Shortly after the train has departed, the conductor comes around collecting tickets. He knocks on the restroom door and says, "Ticket, please." The door opens just a crack and a single arm emerges with a ticket in hand. The conductor takes it and moves on. The accountants saw this and agreed it was a clever idea. So after the conference, the accountants decide to copy the engineers on the return trip and save some money. When they get to the station, they buy a single ticket for the return trip. To their astonishment, the engineers don't buy a ticket at all. "How are you going to travel without a ticket?" says one perplexed accountant. "Watch and you'll see," answers an engineer. When they board the train, the 3 accountants cram into a restroom and the 3 engineers cram into another one nearby. The train departs. Shortly afterward, one of the engineers leaves his restroom and walks over to the restroom where the accountants are hiding. He knocks on the door and says, "Ticket, please." 3 men are in the middle of a desert when their car breaks down. For their hike to town, they each decide to take one thing with them. One man takes a jug of water. The second man takes a sandwich. The last man takes one of the car doors. The first man says to the last man, "I'm bringing the water because if I get thirsty, I can take a drink. And it makes sense to bring a sandwich in case we get hungry. But why bring a car door?" The last man replies, "If I get hot, I can just roll down the window."
The teacher asked little Johnny if he knew his numbers. "Yes," he said, "my father taught me." "Good. What comes after 3? 4, answered the boy. "What comes after 6? 7. "Very good," said the teacher. "Your dad did a good job. And what comes after 10? "Jack, Queen, and King."
A guy asks a lawyer about his fees. "I charge $50 for 3 questions. The lawyer says, "That's awfully steep, isn't it?" the guy asks. Yes, I suppose so, the lawyer replies. Now, what's your final question?